Chapter 20. Sasha Dirtz, the scientist, was no more. The woman, the human, the observer, all gone. Her ego stripped off and scattered into the void. There was no hope for any kind of bearings or solid ground on which to think. Whatever perception she had left was all feeling, emotions, and sensation. Artifacts of mind and fragments of spatial awareness. She felt lighter, faster, and sleeker. The distinction between her subconscious ability to process data and the data itself blurred and compressed. At that level of informational exposure, she was pure becoming, birthed into a new, confusing existence again and again. Her mind was a fresh wound, the bandages torn off by a tsunami of cosmic rays and photons. With linear time abandoned, the eternal now extended infinitely into what should have been the future. She was caught in an ageless, exposed wavefront of time that had no escape, no rest stops. Even though she couldn't capture or procure any of it to bring back, she tasted, smelled, heard, and felt everything. So much feeling. Wind in the grass, narcotic incense smoke, bitter herbs, drums, always drums. Just when she would slow down enough to use language or formulate a thought, she was swept further downstream. Always just out of reach of her rational mind, she was spinning rudderless through a sensual, painful, and rapturous dreamscape. After an eternity elsewhere, minor aspects of her memorized identity started re-emerging. So many quarks bobbing in her fluid mind. As the sensations began to equalize, she was reacquainted with the directionality of gravity, and felt she was no longer moving. Far away, a sound echoed through space. Part of her remembered sound, voices, and very faintly, words and meanings. Yes, the sound was a voice, and it belonged to something called a Danny? The sound, a pinprick of light approached. The voice was attached to it, hitching a ride into her brain. Light slowly fanned out, expanding like 1,000 flashbulbs dropping into her aching eyes. Suddenly, her soul slammed into her body from somewhere far, far away. A rush of burning air filled her lungs as Danny yanked her mask off. Instinctively, she rolled onto her side and threw up. "Goodness sake, Sasha," Danny said, making sure she didn't choke on vomit or sand. It felt like she'd drunk an entire carafe of espresso, the light and sound grating against her senses. Danny poured water over her face and mouth, forcing Sasha to sputter and sit up, head buzzing and mind reeling. "Should we call an ambulance? Danny," PT yelled, helping Sasha out of her BCD. "No," Sasha croaked, her voice shockingly strange in her ears. No one from the outside," she said, feeling more stable. "Outside? Outside of what?" Danny squawked, puzzled as he slicked back her wet mop of red hair with a shaky hand. "Outside of what?" Sasha's inner voice echoed back to her utter confusion. She was gone again, her mind racing ahead months, years, as her soul stretched away from her body like an expanding soap bubble. "Sasha, what the hell, man?" PT blared, wanting to slap her back into the moment. "Where's Paulo?" Sasha asked, still unfamiliar with the construct of time. "He bailed hours ago, when we couldn't find you. Figured you'd walk to town or something, but—" "Hours?" Sasha asked, unsure how long an hour was, let alone a couple of them. "Hours, yes, hours. The only way we found you was this," Danny said, exasperated, holding up the red paracord still tied to the BCD. "There was a baby macaque. He was frantic, jumping all around, screeching, and pulling on the cord, going completely apeshite." "Ha!" Sasha exclaimed, wondering why they weren't amused as well. Now things felt a little familiar, back in the slow-witted world of all the other people. PT shot Danny a worried, "Oh, she is definitely concussed" look as she tossed Sasha's mask into the duffel bag with all her other gear. Yeah. So, It was a long shot, but PT swam in and... Sasha, you were passed out, wearing that thing. The headdress, the monkey, my locket, she thought, shocked that she remembered so much so quickly. She had to put your mask on and swim you out. Saved your life, really. Your hair was gone, man. Hey, are you hearing this? Sasha, you can't just... Thank you, she said, surprising herself. The two looked like she had just told them to fuck off. Then a single word popped into her mind. Look. She pulled her eyes away from their astonished faces and opened her fist. The locket sat in her palm, and not a trace of the tar-like resin remained. Impossible. So how? I was gone, but... I'm tired, she said in a sleepy, childlike manner. Danny and PT exchanged worried looks as PT shouldered Sasha's bag. This wasn't like the result of her occasional binging and blackouts. This shit was unrecognizable. Okay. Well then, let's, get you up to the trailer, Danny said, grunting as the two of them lifted her wet frame. Yeah, and get some water in you 'cause your breath is horrific, PT added with a wince. That made Sasha cry laugh as she stared at the sea. It was so beautiful. In all her hurry to reach this place, this moment, she hadn't really enjoyed the ride, the beach, the sun. The sun! And then she remembered that single beam of light in the darkness hitting her face, illuminating her soul. Back in the cave, it had been all-consuming. But without that black mystery goo, it would have been wasted on her. What she would have given for that magical light moments ago when she had been lost in the void. Sasha couldn't shake the distinct feeling of separation between her and everything an inch past her eyeballs. It was like a porous yet impermeable membrane had been erected around her. An energetic field that all sensory information was being filtered through. But once she received it, the meaning and context shifted from her old understanding, making it feel flat and contrived. The world she had returned to was so washed out and anemic compared to what she experienced in the cave. It seemed dishonest, simulated like a cheap knockoff. How could this be Sasha's new permanent reality? And what did it mean for that other, fantastical reality she had just spent lifetimes in? Was her entire existence before touching the handprint a dream? And that indescribable altered universe the waking state? Once on her feet, her gut shifted again, even though it was empty. Almost as if her stomach, inner ear, and brain had synchronized like watches. Despite being exhausted, her vertical orientation released a burst of strange, smooth energy. It radiated up and down her spine, infusing her with confidence. All right. Okay, I got this, she said, gently shaking off their hands. Reluctantly, they let her try to walk on her own. Sasha's legs were wobbly, but the weakness felt extraordinary. It showed her that she had temporarily lost her ingrained, intuitive muscle memory. Brand new legs again, free from her past, her egoic attachments to outcomes. The kind of physical naivete that would allow her to run hundreds of miles, eventually collapsing. But she knew she could do it. If she needed to, she could just run. Now, fully back in her body, Sasha realized how close she had come to death. Somehow, she made it through the Black Poison's torture chamber, unlike the Mummy, Rue 9, or what was that other name? Lasoni. Sasha was standing as if she hadn't spent years hunched over digs or peering through microscopes. Her shoulders were back, her abs were solid and tight. Listen, I know you've been through a lot. I mean, the way I found you, PT started. But just help us make sense of it all, please. Or at least order us not to call a doctor or something, okay? I mean, you went completely cuckoo, Sasha. Jeopardized everything we've worked for, playing dress-up with a priceless relic and... Strange emotions welled up inside Sasha at the mere thought of the missing chunks and dizzying jumps of those memories, the blending of her senses. Was this PTSD or brain damage? On the verge of tears, she stared into PT's eyes with a crazed, pleading look. "So, you saw it? All of it?" she asked, unsure of what it was. "Yeah, like Danny said. I swam you out, remember? I mean, that cave, it was freaking amazing. I only saw it for a hot second, but holy crap, all those bodies," PT said as they approached the trailer. Sasha, you're acting like you barely recall half your shenanigans in there. Are you saying you really don't know why you were? Danny asked as he opened the door for her. The vent stone. I remember I took it out. Oh shit, did I put it back? Sasha asked, straining to remember. Somehow, maybe it was your training or constant yelling, but that was the first thing I did, PT said, squeezing Sasha's arm for reassurance. Please don't take it personally, but right then, preserving everything, all those treasures, seemed more important than anything else. Sorry. No, you did the right thing, Sasha said, smiling at PT without a hint of judgment. Crossing the trailer, she stopped at her desk and plopped down into her favorite chair. I have favorites. More of her ego floated back, docking with her mind and body. Now she was more here in the trailer than in the cave. Time for business. We need this place locked down immediately, and I need to sleep. Relieved that their bloodthirsty boss was back, Danny sprung as much as he could spring into action. Where's my mask, my dive mask? I need it, Sasha asked, looking around as though it might have been teleported to her office somehow. PT pulled the wet, floppy headgear out of the bag, tossing it to her. But Sasha caught it in such a strange, flawless manner it seemed incorrect. Like she had just thrown it to PT, yet the mask had stayed in her hand. Did the poison damage her chronological recall? Sasha cleared her throat to dissipate some of the weird energy in the room. Feeling uncharacteristically awkward, she began mindlessly organizing the things on her desk. I'll clean up your gear, PT said, pulling the stapler out of Sasha's shaky hand. Just get your ass some rest, please, PT said, a straight arm pointing to the folding aluminum cot. Okay, Mom, Sasha smirked. Oddly, she could better sense the margin between playful sarcasm and damaging retorts after the cave. But why do I care all of a sudden? Did my balls fall off in that cave? Jesus, snap out of it already. Sasha? Danny asked, concerned about her frozen face and glazed eyes. Yeah, I'm fine. I just gotta back up these files first, so, I'll see you 2 in the morning, and thanks again. With that, they knew Sasha was done talking. Silently, they turned, awkwardly shuffling out the door. I don't know what's more shocking, Danny said, turning to PT. The fact that she discovered the most important burial chamber in human history, or that she thanked us twice, PT said, finishing his thoughts. Precisely, Danny said as they headed to the lounge chairs and more than a few drinks.